Welcome to the next lecture on factorial experiment. So, you may recall that in the earlier lecture we had understood basic definitions and different types of concepts which are used in factorial experiment, and we had considered the setup of two randomized block designs where we had obtained the 18 observations, and we had discussed that these 18 observations are going to be used in finding out the different types of effects of factors, their main effect as well as their interaction effect. So, one question crops up: how? You have got these 18 observations, but what exactly you have to do with these 18 observations so that you can ascertain the effect of irrigation or the effect of nitrogen? So, the simple answer is this: these 18 observations have to be combined in a particular way based on certain statistical concept, so that their resulting values are going to denote those main effect as well as interaction effect. So, I will repeat once again. My question here in this lecture is this: how we are going to combine or how we are going to obtain different functions of those 18 observations, or in general how we are going to use the outcome of an experiment which is being denoted by here y1, y2, yn in such a way such that we can compute the main effect as well as interaction effect of all the factors. So, in order to understand, I am going to consider here a very simple example, just the setup of 2 square factorial experiment. 2 square factorial experiment means there will be two factors, say a and b, and every factor will have two levels. So, there will be all together 4 observations. Using those 4 observations, I will try to show you here that how are you going to compute the effect of factor A or the main effect of factor A, the main effect of factor V, B, or and the interaction between A and B. So, how to combine these 4 observations so that we can get the information on the main effects of A and B and the interaction effect. This is now we are going to discuss. So, in this lecture I have prepared some slides and I have written some important things on the slide, and remaining part I will try to develop it before you in this lecture through this 2 square factorial experiment. So, let us try to now concentrate on the slides. Okay. So, now I consider here 2 square factorial experiment, which has got here 2 factors which are here irrigation and another here is nitrogen. So, we have here 2 factors, and each of this factor has got 2 levels. So, irrigation has 2 levels which are denoted by here I0, I1, and nitrogen has 2 levels which are denoted by here N0 and 1. So, I can say here this is my factor I, this is here N, and this has got here I0, I1, and this is here N0 and N1. And definitely, as I said in the earlier lecture, these I0, I1, these are some assignment of numerical values What I am trying to say, that if I say that if a 20 centimeter irrigation is given in the plot, then it is denoted by I0, and if 30 centimeter of irrigation is given in the plot, then it is denoted by I1. And suppose if there is a 5 milligram of, or in some use the suitable quantities of measuring the of the nitrogen, if that is there, then it is denoted by N0, and similarly the other quantity of N1 in the plot, that is denoted by N1. Now, in case if you try to see here how you will conduct the experiment. So, one option is this. If I say here N1 is suppose 8 mg, so I can take here a plot, means I will try to take here 4 plots, 1, 2, 3, 4, and in this plot I will try to give here the treatment combination I0 N0. This means I will try to give here 20 centimeters of irrigation, and I will give here say 5 milligram of nitrogen. Yeah, well, I must expect, I must say that I do not know how to measure the nitrogen, but just for the sake of example, I am assuming that I am assuming 18 milligrams. So, now I give this combination to this plot, and I will try to get its outcome here as say Y1 and so on. Then similarly, I can give here the level here I0, and I can use here the level of nitrogen N1, and then I will get here another outcome from this plot number 2. Similarly, I can use here I1 N0, that means the level of irrigation here is I1 and the nitrogen level is N0, and in the fourth plot I can use here I1 N1. So, these are the only 4 combinations, and from the values which we are going to get from these 4 plots, you will get here 4 values. Now, these 4 values have to be combined in different ways. So, I have just tried to represent this outcome in this table. So, first you just try to have a look on this table, what I have written here, and then I will go very slowly that what I am going to do here. First thing you can see here, I have written here nitrogen, and these two N0 and N1, they are denoting the level of nitrogen. Similarly, in this column I have written here irrigation, and these 2 columns, they are going to denote the level of irrigation I0 and level of irrigation I1. Now, I conduct the experiment using all possible combination, and I see here that in this plot number 1, I try to give here a treatment combination here I0 N0, which is written here, and similarly in this plot I try to give here the level of irrigation to be I0, and then the level of nitrogen to be N1, and whatever is this treatment combination, this is written here as a I0 N1. And similarly, in this plot number here 3, I am giving here a treatment combination I1 N0, and in the fourth plot I am trying to give here the treatment combination, say here I1 N1. Now, I will try to do here some calculations, and you have to see what those calculations are going to indicate, and you have to think in a very simple and naive way. Do not complicate, just think very simply, right. Now, in case if I try to take here the average of this and this, if I write down here I0 N0 plus I0 N1 divided by 2, what is this? Try to look at this expression and try to see what I am trying to do here. You can see here that in this expression this I0 level is the fixed. So, do not you think that this expression looks like as if this is giving us the average effect of nitrogen for given level I0. And similarly, if you try to take the arithmetic mean of I1 N0 and I1 N1 like this. So, do not you see here that in both this expression, this I1 and this I1 both are the constant, both are the same, or this or their level has been fixed. So, do not you think that this expression I1 N0 plus I1 N1 divided by 2 looks like as if this is indicating the average effect of nitrogen for given level of irrigation, which is I1. Right. And now I come to another column here, which is here this main effect. Why this is called as main effect? Because I will tell you at a later stage. Here what I do, I try to compare here the outcome of these two averages. Which averages? I am trying to make here a green circle, please try to follow my pen, this average and this average. I try to compare them. And how I try to compare them? I will try to simply find out here, which is the average effect of nitrogen at I0 level minus average effect of nitrogen at I1 level. Now, if you try to see what it is going to give you, this is here I0 N0 plus I0 N1 divided by 2 minus I1 N0 plus I1 N1 divided by 2. Now, if you try to see here what is happening in this part, I0 is fixed, in the second part I1 is fixed, and in both these parts N is fixed. That is, the levels are the same, or I can say that I0 is the same, I1 is the same, or N is the same in this expression. So, just using a simple common sense, how do you interpret these things? What does it give you? Don't you think that since the level of nitrogens are the same in both the expression here this and here this difference is going to give me something like difference due to irrigation level? Why? Because the levels of nitrogens in both the expression are the same. So, we can call it as if this is the main effect of irrigation. Right. And now I do here one thing here more. This I have expressed in a practical language. Practical language means whatever is the symbols and notations of this experiment. Now I try to denote them in a different way. Suppose I have here two factors, A and B, and suppose this nitrogen is my factor A and this has got two levels which are denoted by here A0 and A1. So, I will try to denote this N0 as here A0 and N1 here as A1. And similarly, for this irrigation, I try to say this is my here factor B and which has got here two levels, say B0 and B1. So, I try to denote this I0 as say here B0 and I1 as B1. Now, when I am trying to give the treatment combination I0 and 0 in this plot, so instead of I0 and 0 I can write down here this is A0 B0, and whatever is the outcome of the plot which is obtained after giving the treatment combination A0 B0, that is denoted inside the bracket. That means, we try to write down the treatment combination inside the bracket and that is going to denote the value of the outcome which is being obtained from that plot. So, similarly, when I come to this here next plot, here we are trying to give here two treatment combination, say A1 and here B0, and their outcome is being denoted by A1 B0, and in the plot number 3 we are giving A1 B0 and which is denoted denoted here inside the bracket, and in the fourth plot we are trying to give the treatment combination A1 B1. Why I am doing it? Because later on I will try to convert this example in developing the theory. So, at that stage this notation A0, A1, B0, B1 will help us. And now, in case if I try to translate the mean effect here, I can write down here this is nothing but A0 B0 plus A1 B0 divided by 2, and this is the same thing here, and in the next column I can write down here the same average effect which is here A1 B0 plus A1 B1 divided by 2, right. And what are these things? If you try to see, this is trying to give us here what? In both the cases B0 level is the same. So, this will give us the average effect of say here factor A, and for given level B0, and in the second case this is going to give us the average effect of factor A for given level say here B1 B1. Sorry, this should be here A. Wait, let me just make it here. This is here A0 B1. Yeah, please make a correction. Right. So, and similarly, in case if I try to now, please try to observe my pen. The slide is becoming a little bit clumsy, but I will try my best to make it clear. You try to see here this effect in the yellow color, and the same thing I try to write down here, and this will give us the main effect of this here factor A. How? I try to do the same thing. I try to write down A0 B0 plus A1 B0 divided by 2 minus A1 B0, sorry, A0 B1, this would be A0 B1, please make a correction over here, A0 B1 plus A1 B1 divided by here 2, and this is going to give us here the main effect of A. So, what you can see here from this expression that that you have got here only the 4 observation 1, 2, 3 and 4, and if you try to combine them in this particular way, you are going to get here the main effect of A. And now I try to move further, means I am trying to move in this direction, you can see the direction of the arrow, but here I do not have the space. So, I will try to continue in the next slide, right. So, you can see here now. So, we already have obtained here these average effects, and now here I try to do another thing, that I try to consider here third column, and here I try to consider the difference, that is I0 and 1 minus I0 and 0, that is this minus this, the difference between the two. Now, in case if you try to see what it is trying to give you, here the level of irrigation is fixed at I0. So, this difference, do not you think that it looks like as if this is giving us the effect of nitrogen at irrigation level I0. And similarly, in case if you try to look into the second row here, it is trying to give you here say I1 and 1 minus I1 and 0. So, here again this I1 and I1 are the fixed. So, do not you think that this looks like as if this is the effect of nitrogen at irrigation level I1, right. Now, I try to denote the same thing in the symbols of here A and B, just to avoid any confusion at the later stage. So, this is my here factor A, and this is here A0 A1, and this is my here factor B. So, this level is B0 B1. So, here I have here A0 B0, and here I have here A1 B0, here I have here A0 B1, and here I have A1 B1. So, the same thing what I have written here, this can be written as here A1 B0 minus A0 B0, and the same thing here in the second row, this can be written here as say A1 B1 minus A0 B1, right. Now, next you have to observe what I am going to do here. I try to take the difference between this and this, and I try to consider here the effect of nitrogen at I1 minus effect of nitrogen at I2 level, at I0 level, and I divide it by here 2. So, this comes out to be something like I1 and 1 minus I1 and 0 by 2 minus I0 N1 minus I0 N0 divided by 2. So, now you observe what is happening in this case. Here I have irrigation level which is here fixed here I1, but the levels of nitrogen are changing, and here in the second expression I have here the level of irrigation to be I0 and the levels of nitrogen are changing. But when I am trying to compare both these statements, both these expressions, then this is the comparison of this and this and this, and as well as this and this. That means, if I try to compare this expression and this expression, they are trying to give us what is the change in the level of nitrogen as well as what is the change in the level of irrigation. So, essentially they are going to give us the effect of nitrogen as well as irrigation in the outcome. So, this we can call it as a interaction effect. Interaction effect of different levels of N and different levels of irrigation. So, this is measuring the interaction effect. So, in our language, in our standard notation, I can write down this here A B minus B upon 2 minus A minus 1 upon 2. Right. So, this can be called as, say, in general terminology as, say, average interaction effect. Right. Okay. Now, what I try to do here, that I have got here 4 observations. Please try to look at the quickest part, and I will try to come to the next slide so that you can see here this thing. So, I am trying to have here this part. Now, in case if you try to take the average of all the 4 observations over here, and I try to take here the I0 N0 plus I0 N1 plus I1 N0 plus I1 N1 divided by here 4. So, what is this giving us? This is giving us a sort of, say, this here general mean effect. This is simply the average of all the 4 observations which are having different types of combination, or say all possible combination. So, this is how we try to compute the general mean effect, and this can be written as, say, here A0 B0 plus A1 B0 plus A0 B1 plus A1 B1 divided by here 4. Right. So, now you can see here what we have done. We have learnt 3 things: how to find the main effect of factor A, how to find out the interaction effect between the 2 factors A and B, and we also have found that how to find out the general mean effect. Now, the same exercise I can do in the other direction. So, now you can see here that up to now I was working here in this correction, but now I am trying to do the same thing whatever I have done, but I am going to do it in the other direction. So, you can see here, I can write down here briefly. This is my factor A, this is my level A0, this is A1, this is my here factor B irrigation, this is my here level B0, this is B1, and this I can denote by A0 B0, this is A0 B1, this is A1 B0, and this is A1 B1. And whatever I have done up to now in the earlier 2 slides, I will try to do it here. Now, I try to take the arithmetic mean of these 2 observations, this and here this, and I try to find out here, say here I0 N0 plus I1 N0 divided by here 2. So, now you can see here just on the same lines that we had discussed earlier, this is trying to give us the value of average effect of irrigation when nitrogen level is at N0. Right. Why? Because you can see here that this level of nitrogen here and here, they are the same. And similarly, if you try to consider this I0 N1 and I1 N1, so I try to take the average of the 2, this gives me I0 N1 plus I1 N1 divided by here 2. So, this is going to give us the average effect of this irrigation at N1 level of nitrogen. Right. And in case if you try to compare them, I try to compare this and here this, then you can see here what it is giving you. This is giving you here. I will try to find out here average effect of irrigation at N1 level minus average effect of I at N0 level. So, this will become here I0 N1 plus I1 N1 divided by 2 minus I0 N0 plus I1 N0 divided by 2. So, this essentially gives you the main effect of nitrogen. And in case if you try to write down the same expressions in the framework of A0, A1, B1, B2. So, I will try to write them in this orange color. So, you can see here the mean effect becomes A0 B0 plus A1 B0 divided by 2, and this becomes here A0 B1 plus A1 B1 divided by 2, and if you try to take the difference of here, so you can find out the main effect. This will become A0 B1 plus A1 B1 minus A0 B0 minus A1 B0 divided by here 2, and this is nothing but your here main effect of here A. So, now you can see here we have found here the main effects of A, main effect of B, interaction effect AB, and general mean effect. See here. So, and this all these have been obtained using only the 4 values A0 B0, A0 B1, A1 B1 and A1 B0, and all these AB and general mean effect, they can be found from the different combination of these 4 values. So, now I would like to stop here, but in the next lecture I will try to continue with the same example. Rather, the example is finished, but I will try to rewrite the findings of this small example, and then I will try to formulate how to write down the basic functions, theory and fundamentals of factorial experiment in a more general way. So, you have a look at this video, and I will see you in the next lecture. Till then, goodbye.